Well, my friends, there's more. Just when you thought we had pretty much exhausted the topic of Erika Kirk, we're mistaken. Erika, we hardly knew ye. Here's the latest, my friend. It seems like the resurfacing of Erika Kirk's old reality TV audition footage didn't just surprise people who followed Charlie Kirk and loved him, it jolted them. Because it cracked the carefully polished public image that has been built since his death. And it exposed a version of Erika that we kind of suspected, but that looks radically different from the one currently presented on national stages. For many supporters who believe that they were watching the emergence of a quiet, traditional, faith-centered widow stepping into leadership out of duty and sacrifice, well, the contrast is jarring. It isn't about judging someone for having a life before marriage. It's about the whiplash between the two radically different personas and what that suggests about branding and performance and authenticity in modern political media culture. And it makes you wonder, well, what else do we don't know? Is this an act too? Yeah. Now, in the Amazing Race audition tape, Erika is, of course, the playful, bubbly, overly flirtatious little sylph openly marketing herself and her boyfriend. Anywho, her boyfriend with language like sex sells and leaning into entertainment culture and reality TV ambition. You've seen it before. And that version of Erika speaks the language of Hollywood hustle, personal branding, fame seeking, selling yourself, selling your soul, selling who you are. Am I sexy enough for you? That's what I know. I know how to market me. We'll get to that Lord business later. Yeah. The Bible. I'll do whatever. I can be. Want me to be a CIA operative? I can do industrials for EMPs. Name it. Send me to Romania. Send me to China. I'll do whatever you want. I'm like Zelig. I'll do anything. I become my surrounding. Now, fast forward to today, and the public image is completely different. Now, the presentation emphasizes modesty and faith and family and emotional restraint and a traditional wife, that whole aesthetic that aligns neatly with the conservative cultural expectations that we all want, right? Now, for many Charlie supporters, the issue isn't that people change. The issue is whether the transformation reflects genuine growth or a calculated repositioning to fit a new audience and a new power structure. Oh, yeah. You see, this is where Candace Owens' role becomes important. You see, Candace has positioned herself as someone willing, ready, and able to question narratives that others are afraid to touch. Now, while many conservative commentators tiptoe around, sensitive internal controversies, Candace has built a reputation on confronting, uncomfortable contradictions head on. Supporters see her approach not as cruelty, but as accountability. In this case, Candace is not attacking Erika's past relationships. She's highlighting the larger pattern of image management, malleability, the chameleon. Who is Erika? The selective storytelling and strategic reinvention that often happens when someone suddenly inherits a national platform. Charlie Kirk was not just a public figure. For millions of young conservatives, he was more than that. More than that, he was a symbol of authenticity and grassroots energy and real and genuine and personal conviction. His supporters feel protective of that legacy. And not only protective of the legacy, but protective of Charlie and what he meant to them and what they remember. See, this is what people don't understand. They were committed. They were sold on him. And when Erika stepped into the leadership roles, by the way, and nobody voted her as far as grassroots didn't do this, or all of a sudden she says, hey, guess what? Here I am. It's me. You love me. I'm in charge. People said, okay, well, I guess. All of a sudden people began shaping the future direction of TPUSA related messaging. And people said, wait a minute. And expectations were enormous. Fans wanted continuity. Yes. Continuity with Charlie's values and transparency and leadership. That's what they wanted. Emotional honesty. And instead, what many perceive as some kind of a carefully orchestrated and rehearsed public persona that seems designed for optics and schmaltz and putting on the image of something. The holier than thou. All of a sudden, uber Christian, spouting Christianity, spouting biblical phrases. But it's always about her voyage, how she's, stewarding the helm, weathering her way through the travails of life. And if I hear one more person say, shouldn't you be nice? She's a widow. Look, I don't know what being a widow has to do with what I'm seeing. It's like when somebody that you thought was a real jerk all your life, he dies or she dies. You're supposed to feel sad? I'm not putting her in that category, but I'm looking at what she's doing now. Remember, I'm not talking about the way she looks or her face or her age or her, no. This is about performance. And by the way, stay away from that. Don't lower yourself to that. We're not going to go into what people look like, okay? The only thing we care about is what people act like. And if the sincerity quotient is working. Because, this resurfaced footage, it feeds the perception. It creates this visible contrast between a past persona, oriented towards entertainment, fame, and a present persona oriented and directed around political influence. And to critics, it raises very uncomfortable questions. Was the earlier sex sells mindset abandoned through what, genuine personal transformation? Or was it simply replaced with a different marketing tool, a different strategy, a different act two, so to speak, better suited for conservative audiences? And when Erika speaks today about innocence and purity and traditional values, some viewers now wonder whether those narratives were selectively emphasized and picked and selected to fit a new role rather than organically develop over time. You know what I'm saying. You're not buying this. Look, you know what she is. With all due respect, she's an actress. It's okay. That's what she knows how to do. And she thinks she's pulling a fast one. See, Candace Owens has capitalized on this moment, not by inventing scandals, but by highlighting how optics and stagecraft and power kind of all intersect. She understands better than a lot of people modern media dynamics. Okay? She knows better than most. And she knows that movements built on image rather than authenticity eventually fracture. And her criticism resonates because it taps into a broader anxiety among conservatives that their leaders are maybe becoming more performance-oriented and theatrical than principled. In that sense, Candace isn't just critiquing Erika, she's challenging this entire system that always rewards branding and veneer over character. And what makes this exceptionally interesting and particularly sensitive is the emotional backdrop of Charlie's death. Supporters are still grieving. They're watching someone else step into a symbolic role tied to his memory. Any hint of inauthenticity feels magnified. When Erika presents herself on stage with dramatic emotional cues and highly choreographed, messaging, almost Busby Berkeley-like productions, some viewers interpret it as sincere grief, but others see it as stagecraft and artificial and not authentic. And the resurfaced audition tape adds fuel to that debate by showing that Erika was once very comfortable performing for cameras in pursuit of attention and opportunity. And it's kind of like, it's almost weird seeing this rather, she was young, but sort of seductive, coquettish with this boyfriend. Whoever this guy's talking about cleavage, and no comment on that. Now, none of this proves malicious intent, but it does raise legitimate questions about consistency. You see, public figures who build platforms on moral authority invite the scrutiny. And if your brand centers on faith, then modesty and traditional virtue and all that stuff, but people will naturally examine your history for alignment. Doesn't it make sense? Billy Graham was one thing, if he was with the Hells Angels, unless that's part of your story, how you transformed from the gutters and the bowels of criminality to this elevated Christian quintessence today. Now, that scrutiny, by the way, becomes even sharper when old content contradicts current messaging. This is not harassment. It's the consequence of choosing public leadership. You see, going back to Candace, her supporters argue that she is doing what legacy media refused to do. She's asking whether conservative movements are being led by authentic conviction or by professional image managers. She's questioning whether internal power transitions are being driven by principle or optics. And she's doing it while accepting the backlash that inevitably comes with challenging sacred cows. Don't mention it. She's almost, I don't want to say virginal, but she's almost like she's beatific, so to speak. Now, for many Charlie Kirk supporters, this situation feels personal. And they invested emotionally in Charlie's mission. They really did. And they were just devastated when he was assassinated. And they trusted the movement that he helped build. And when leadership stories and leadership theories and narratives feel curated and produced rather than organic, it creates a sense of betrayal. And the Erika footage doesn't create that feeling by itself, but it amplifies existing doubts about transparency and decision-making and internal accountability. That's what we're talking about. The broader issue here is not one individual. It's the collision between influencer culture and political leadership. And social media reward reinvention and branding, pivots and viral storytelling. I love that. Movements require consistency, though, trust, credibility, and the word I keep using over and over again, authenticity. And when those two worlds collide, then the contradictions become unavoidable and glaring. And Candace Owens understands this. She understands this tension and is exploiting it strategically, not for cheap drama, but to force a conversation conservatives have avoided for too long. When you saw that piece, when you saw that audition reel, when you saw Erika, you thought to yourself, wait a minute. It creeped you out, didn't it? Be honest. And the sense of creepiness isn't the fact that somebody could, again, not that somebody could be younger, somebody could be auditioning, but the fact that there is this part, you're wondering, how much of this act are you seeing now? How much of this is audition? Is life on audition? Is anything real? Is there anybody acting? This is like a Twilight Zone thing. Listen, I'm going to tell you something right now. This is my opinion. This is my gut reaction. I feel terrible what happened, of course, obviously to her and her family regarding the assassination of Charlie. That's a given. But I don't trust her. I don't believe her. And I don't like her, meaning I don't feel good with her. I don't feel like she's leveling with me. I don't. She can't sell me anything. I've seen all this. I've seen the reaction. And add to it the cease and desist, the meeting with Candace, the stop, the series, this whirlwind tour on Fox News, and even Barry Weiss, all of that put together spells this cacophony of inauthentic problems that I'm talking about. And that's it. And what do you think? When you saw this, I don't want to show these over. If you saw it, great. If not, but what's your take? Do you believe her? Remember, she thrust herself into the corporate world by virtue of being the position of, I'm speaking on behalf of everybody. I'm the voice of TPUSA. Oh, okay. All right. That's the thing. That's the difference. Remember this. Remember, nobody's just picking on somebody because, she's, we don't like the way she looks or she had a bad audition reel. No. She thrust herself. She is in the spotlight. She is in the warmth of the Klieg. She is there. She's the epicenter of all that's going on right now. And she wants you to believe her. And woe unto you if you or anybody else dismisses her or does not pay the proper homage to her. TPUSA, that ain't going to be here for long. And every time one of these stories rises, every time one of these references to her past, or the real Erika, a particular layer or veneer or stratum, that which we see, whenever that happens, things change, and vectors change, and commitment changes. What do you think, my friends? You've been so very kind, and by the way, your analyses have been fantastic. Please continue. I've got some questions for you to answer in the section involving, the comment section. Please like this video. Please, you liking us is so incredible. Your support is phenomenal. We thank you so much. Also, please hit that little bell so you're notified of live streams and new videos. And also, which is important, remember, as you have been so wonderful in liking our efforts this year, my beloved wife at Lynn's Warriors is fighting indefatigably. Coming up, we're going to be talking about, and she's going to be talking about lawsuits that are going to be asking whether social media are addictive, whether there should be strict rules regarding children, and not like the stuff in the old days when somebody would say, backwards masking or no. We're talking about things that permanently and irreparably affect children in the long run. So please follow her in her quest, her goal to make the world better and to stop human trafficking for children under Lynn's Warriors. I thank you for that. All right, that's it, my friends. Now, let me thank you for this. Let me ask you to go to the next section and make sure right now that you comment as you see